Africa Tech Radio.
Good afternoon, everyone. Happy PR Day, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Eddie. As we all know, our webinar today is going to be discussing the future of public relations in Nigeria and how ready PR professionals are. We are probably all aware that today is World PR Day. It is basically a day where the global community comes together to recognize the contributions of PR, to recognize the importance of PR. And we celebrate it on the 16th of July as a day to commemorate Ivy Lee. He is known as one of the pioneers of PR and one of the people who have pushed it to become what it is today, modern day PR, multifaceted. Our organizers are none other than Teksightedge in partnership with the London School of Public Relations here in Nigeria, and it is brought to you by Africa Tech Radio. The London School of Public Relations has a representative that will be speaking to us at the end of today's session. They are currently running a discount on some of their courses, so please be sure to hang around so that you can have more of that information. I will move on into introducing my guests. I have three special people that will be joining me today as we discuss and basically dive into what PR is, the current complexities, and how we can upskill and equip ourselves with the right tool for what is to come. I will start with the first panelist, Dr. Nelson Okori. He is an associate professor at Pan Atlantic University from the School of Media and Communications. Dr. Nelson, thank you for joining us. If you don't mind, can you give us a brief introduction on what you do, how your role plays, what part your role plays in the Nigerian space, and we will appreciate it if you can add one interesting and exciting piece of information about yourself. You can do that in a sentence or an adjective.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Dr. Nelson Okori. I'm an associate professor in the School of Media and Communication. I'm also a public relations professional registered with the Nigerian Institute of Public Relations. My professional space is in marketing communication, which has to do with public relations. And my own concern with public relations, my own focus with public relations is how we can actually use public relations for sustainable business practices. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for that, Mr. Nelson. You're welcome today. Hopefully, we get to discuss these sustainable practices and how PR plays a part in that. I'll move on to the next person, Mr. Jide Johnson. He is a media strategist. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Jide. I'll also allow you to introduce yourself briefly and remember to include one interesting piece of information about yourself. Welcome.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm Jide Johnson. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, and I'm a consultant in public affairs, journalism, and strategic communication. I work with Nigerian Institute of Journalism, where I am the director of special program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Jide Johnson. We're looking forward to quite an interesting session today. Next on my list, I have Mr. Femi Isaac Olatunji, who is a PR consultant with Offset, the lead consultant, I believe. Welcome, Mr. Femi. Please introduce yourself and also remember one exciting piece of information about yourself and what you do in the PR.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here. My name is Femi Isaac Olatunji, lead consultant for Offset. What we do at Offset is to tell compelling stories of innovation and growth out of Africa. So as opposed to the very many bad news that people get to see about the African continent, we're really focused on telling a fantastic narrative, one that focuses on growth and innovation. I've worked across the client side and across agency side. And if you don't find me doing PR or marketing communication, you probably find me collating artworks or painting, a fantastic painting on the canvas. That's what I do. So interesting fun.
Okay, that is indeed an interesting piece of information. Okay. Thank you very much for that. So without taking too much of our time, we're going to get right into it. First of all, I would like us to be able to answer this burning question, which is, what is the Nigerian PR landscape currently characterized by in terms of emerging realities in Nigeria? I will address this to Dr. Nelson first.
Yes, when we talk about public relations, we need to understand that public relations has moved and transformed with time. And there was a time we talk about public relations at the mainstream, and there's a time we now talk about the public relation at the online stream. So we need to understand it from that perspective. First, when we talk about what public relation is, we say public relation is establishing a harmonious relationship between the organization and its key publics. And what are these key publics? And the key publics has to do with the media. I would say any relationship with the media is media relations. With the relationship with the government, we call it government relations. The relationship with the investor, we say investor relations. The relationship with the community, we call it community relations. So community, investors, government, media serves as key publics. So relationship with them are very, very important. But this particular landscape has now been extended. We have what we call the online community. So when we talk about public relations now, we need to understand that when we're not only looking at public relations with this only key publics as we know it traditionally, but we should also be talking about online public relations. And that is public relations establishing a relationship with the online community. And that is now the new frontier in the area of public relations. And that's one thing that public relation professionals need to pay attention to, because at the traditional level, we have a lot of gatekeeping we can do, but at the online community, they are more sophisticated. They are more, they have more access to information. And at that level, there's a lot that needs to be done to establish a harmonious relationship with this community. So this is where we are now. And that is what many of professionals are battling with. Because when we talk about community religion, it's something that most organizations are known with. Media relations, good. Government relations, good. Investor relations, good. Customer relations, good. Image management, good. But online community, that's the new frontier. That's the new platform that most PR professionals need to pay more attention to. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I would like to throw the same question to Mr. Jide Johnson. If you don't mind, kindly tell us what you think are the current realities in the PR landscape in Nigeria, as well as the emerging ones, what we need to also look out for.
Like Professor Nelson pointed out, the whole essence of public relation is about initiating, building, sustaining, and maintaining relationship across the target audience of the organization interested in building relationship with its target and various stakeholders. Now, if we look at the essence of public relation, it's about storytelling about your organization, using words and images to build an identity, to build an image for yourself. And whether when it started with, I believe, who happens to be the one we are celebrating today, that is one of the founding fathers of public relations, or we talk about Edward Barney, who brought about the scientific approach to the study of public relations, and who in actual sense was the first person to teach, or to even coin the term public relation, and the first person to teach the course public relation in New York State University in the 1920s. The major elements of public relation and the major currency of storytelling are still words and images delivered across different spectrum. And like Dr. Nelson pointed out, the same way we are telling stories, the same way we are telling stories now. But the delivery spectrum has changed. It has changed from the mainstream media that we have seen the emergence of digital and social media platform. It has changed in such a way that the traditional gatekeepers do not have absolute control with respect to access to information and the control of information, because an average target audience himself, what has really changed are the delivery platforms in which we use to deliver our messages. Now, do we have a clear understanding of this delivery platform? Are we using this delivery platform of our storytelling in public relation to its maximum advantage? Are we better equipped in deploying? Because public relation is a profession that is highly dependent on the media, and the media itself is shaped by technology in terms of its development, in terms of its shape, in terms of its structure, and in terms of its form. And are we fully equipped in using modern day technology in public relation in Nigeria? that left a lot to still be desired. And I'm sure that as we go on in this conversation, we discover that there are areas and there are needs in which we need improvement with respect to the practice of public relation in Nigeria. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Implied that we need to move away from the traditional way of doing PR and digitize, taking it more to the online community and not relying only on the traditional methods. Mr. Femi, same question. What would you say is the current landscape of PR in Nigeria, and can you identify some emerging realities that you think we need to be conscious of?
Okay, thank you very much. Fantastic question. And I mean, the other persons on the panel have already spoken to where we're at right now in Nigeria, and I'd like to say also across Africa, because I've done a couple of Pan-African communication campaigns across board. Now we moved from the traditional, means of doing public relations, and we're gradually emerging into the digital ecosystem. And I really don't think we've gotten a wind of that 100% before AI then came, so it's us trying to get into full digital integration and then go into, AI technologies that is actually powering a lot of the industries across the world right now. And public relations also is not an exception. Now, if you think about what the daily public relations consultants do, from idea generation into writing contents, whether it be press releases, whether it be opinion pieces, whether it's feature articles, to syndicating these messages and these collaterals to the media. And then, of course, a strategic, plan that you have to then write before you get to this point, and then building relationship with your client across board. You will find that what we've been doing most of the time is really a lot traditional. But when digital technology came, there's been such a great improvement, because again, you will find that a lot more Nigerian public relations practitioners are including digital platforms, digital channels into their mode of communication. Again, the way that you would automatically want to write for traditional isn't the way that you write for digital. Like Professor Jide Johnson said at the time, he mentioned that storytelling is the core of PR. And I dare say that I live by a quote which says, if you do not tell your story, somebody else is going to tell it. And when they tell it, they might invariably get it wrong. So how are you moving? How are we moving from the purpose, from the means, from the style of telling stories traditionally before now into telling stories in digital format? And you'll find again that technology has brought a lot of improvement. For example, now, data and analytics are having a very, very strong influence on how the public relations practice is being conducted, So as opposed to a client coming to tell you that, I want a press release in Vanguard, I want a feature article in Punch, you are now supposed, as a PR practitioner who is already influenced by the prevailing trends that is going across in the world of public relations, go back to the client and say that, based on the data analytics that we have conducted, based on your audience demographics, based on your competitor analysis, based on the performance metrics that you've had in some quarters that we have looked at, and the type of audience that you're trying to reach, we do not think that what you need is a press release. Maybe what you need is some stakeholder engagement. So he allows the PR practitioner now to be able to speak, not just because he's a practitioner, but because he's speaking from data. There is insights and truths that person is, dragging their information from. And then if you are able to take out of those insights and truths, then you are able to become a better public relation practitioner, which is the difference between what we have initially and where the public relations sphere is heading to. So they are data-driven, PR, that there's insights, there's better audience mapping. You then have more impactful messaging. So when you're able to build a message map, because it is informed by all of the metrics that you're looking at, and there is data involved, and then you're using innovation and technology also to drive your messaging, you are able to really appeal to the audience, which you now have on a very, very mass platform. So I think that's where we're at right now. Whether we have gotten it to totally acceptable as to where we should be, I do not think. but I know that there's a lot of improvement. I can attest to a couple of campaigns where data-driven insights are used, to leverage the communications direction that the client, then approve, for the agency to really move towards. And I think that we're getting there. We just need to do a bit more, to really get to that global stage where every PR agency in Nigeria is using data, using analytics, and using digital tools to be able to drive, better performance for not just themselves, but for the reputation of their clients. But we're getting there.
I totally agree with you. The introduction of advanced technology, how we can tie PR to technological innovation such as AI and have data-driven PR is very essential at this point. But speaking about that, I would actually like to say, don't you think there are some ethical considerations and challenges that need to be addressed when using or integrating AI and implementing data-driven PR?
Thank you very much. Fantastic question. So I think that one of the fears that a lot of practitioners had when AI came was that AI would then come and take their job. And the reason isn't far-fetched because AI can develop a press release, from the scratch. But will that AI develop that press release that connotes to the human touch or that appeals to that demographics the way that human feeling is gotten? I would say no. Again, because AI is when you feed it, you get out of it what you feed it, so you tell the AI to draft the press release. The AI doesn't know where the event took place. So whatever information you have given to the AI, that's what it gives back to you, right? So considering ethical concerns, for me, I think, again, the case around plagiarism where whatever releases that, AI provides for us, whatever PR content, even the AI tells you that do not rely on the platform totally because it's something that has some back end, working on it. And then if somebody tries to fact check you, they can know that this particular content 100% is gotten from AI. So you don't want to do that. So I think that's one of the ethical concerns. First, use AI as a tool to help you, achieve seamless processing, to help you simplify your workload. So you want to do a content now, a press release, an opinion piece, instead of you starting afresh. So let's not even go into press release. So from the point where you start your idea generation, there are AI tools that can help you brainstorm concept, creative concept on brand. If you give them that context and you give them a target audience, they help you to create a starting point for your ideas. Now, that doesn't mean that you should now leave every of your tasks to AI. It will be defeating the purpose. So from idea generation to content creation, AI can help you to get a pedestal to build on, right? And then you are now the one who now puts a human touch into it. For example, people who, have a lot of clients and monitor campaigns for them, would naturally want to have a media list, that you have different types of, media personalities across healthcare desk, there's somebody on the entertainment desk, these are manual things that PR companies use as their strong touch points before now. But right now, there are AI media list generators that help you create a customized media list. And then not just that, help you to conduct sentiment analysis that helps you to streamline that PR process. So I get that point where we can be scared about, there might be, ethics, concerns about whether everybody is leveraging AI. I think that if we use AI as a tool that helps us to simplify our job and we do not lose our creativity in the process, then I think that's when we are going to get the best of AI, because everything that looks like brick and mortar before now, from PR perspectives, there are chat GPT applications, even concerning video creations and video monitoring, that helps us simplify this process. So I will really think that it behoves then on the practitioner, right, to checkmate themselves as to whether they are using the AI tools and the digital tools in the best way, or they are just allowing these things to produce content, and do all the job for themselves, whereby there's no creative input from their own end.
Thank you very much, Mr. Femi. Truth be told, I know that there are times everyone just wants to find the fastest way out of something. But yes, using AI can help you do, put out your work better, help you develop better ideas and strategies. But at the end of the day, don't be totally reliant on it such that you're plagiarizing and creating ethical concerns. Speaking about ethical concerns, I know that Dr. Nelson had mentioned something earlier about work that he's doing with in the area of sustainable practices. I'm hoping that you can shed some light into that and tell us how AI can play a part in developing strategies that align. Dr. Nelson?
Okay. Yes. So, like he said, and like your question you mentioned, AI is very, very important. It's artificial intelligence. But we need to first understand certain things before we look at the ethical concerns, look how it can make it sustainable. When we talk about birds, birds are to the air. When we talk about fish, fish is to the sea. And when we talk about the internet, AI is to the internet. It's something that we can't ignore. It's its primary tool. So when we talk about artificial intelligence, it's something that it's a primary tool. It's what it exists. It's its environment. So from that understanding, we should note that it's not something that we can say we can use or we may not want to use. It's something that is essential that we should use. And when we talk about the AI concerns, it's still the same thing that applies in the traditional media landscape. Privacy issues. How can we actually address the privacy issues? We're having this meeting now and we have AI translator and transcribe and put everything in text. The question people keep asking is that this particular information that is being captured on this virtual meeting, where does it go to? Can any of us answer that particular question? It generates everything, yes, transcribes everything, translates everything. As I'm speaking, it's capturing everything in text. Where do the information go to? That's a question. Privacy issue. Another question we need to ask is information security. How well is our information secured when we use AI? So this is another major issue. So it's not just about us saying these are issues that still affect the traditional media landscape. We talk about issues of privacy, issue of copyright, issues of information security. These are issues. Then we talk about deepfake. So how can we now, I've gone beyond the issue about fake news now to what? Deepfake. How can we now address that issue of deepfake? So these are the realities. And this, as PR professionals, we need to address these realities. Now, moving forward, when we talk about how can we now apply AI to sustainable PR, like I said, we are dealing with the online community, and as we progress to the online community, we need that some areas we really need to pay attention to. One is data-driven PR, like Mr. Olufemi have actually pointed out. It's very, very critical. For us to promote sustainable public relation practices with the use of AI, we need to place so much emphasis on data-driven public relations, whereby data provides intelligence for any form of information decision we are taking. The second is influencer relations. Because we are dealing with influencers now, we need to find ways of dealing with these influencers properly. It's not just enough for us to be talking about, okay, we are talking about media relations. It has progressed from dealing with the media with dealing with influencers. So we are not talking only about media relations now, we're talking about influencer relations because we have a lot of content creators. So how can we be in this particular space using data-driven PR, AI, and dealing with influencer PR? Then lastly is digital public relations. And this is very, very critical. How we can promote our goods and services using the internet, using mobile devices, using search engine optimization. These are critical areas that we need to do. So any organization that wants to remain sustainable must pay attention to these three critical areas, these three pillars: data-driven, influencer relations, and digital PR. So digital PR is very, very critical. So it's very, very important. So these are three areas that we can't ignore: digital PR, influencer relations, and data-driven PR. So these three areas are very, very important for promoting sustainable public relations. Any organization that wants to remain sustainable in the world of business currently need to pay attention to these three critical pillars in applying the use of AI. It's very, very critical. So that's my submission. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that. I would just reiterate the 3 points that you boiled it all down to: data-driven PR, influencer relations, and digitization. Interestingly enough, this is applicable to pretty much, I would say, all areas of PR now in the current realities that we find ourselves. But again, one needs to be careful that these are done within the appropriate lines. Mr. Jide Johnson, we have been talking about AI, digitization, and data-driven PR. I know that you do some work within the media strategy space, and I'm hoping that you can share, examples of specific AI tools and applications that help with media monitoring, sentiment analysis, and things within that space. If you don't mind answering that for us, Mr. Femi.
Okay, thank you very much. So like we had already mentioned, AI is at this point changing the landscape of gathering information, especially for public relations. So you have, as opposed to how it used to be before, where you try to go through the brick and mortar phase. There is a vendor, typical PR agencies back in the days, we remember vendors who bring newspapers almost on a daily basis. So you have a huge storehouse, there's a part of your PR, office where you keep a bunch of newspapers at every point in time. You are scanning them, you are stapling them, and then before you're transcribing some of them into creating a media report for the client. Now, digital transformation has changed the way media monitoring is done, and it's so effective. So you have tools like a Meltwater, for instance, and a Cision. And what do these platforms use? They use AI to provide real-time monitoring of media mentions, and they help you to be able to respond quickly to emerging trends or crises. So as opposed to looking for information about the clients that you're monitoring for alone, you can actually get both industry updates, both competitor news and analysis in just one of these platforms. And so they are real time and they provide you all in one, support. Then for sentiment analysis, there's BrandWatch, there's Brand24, that uses machine learning algorithm to assess, public sentiment towards the brand. And then this really helps PR professionals to understand audience perception and adjust their strategies accordingly. Now, I think about 2 years ago, I was working on a campaign, and the campaign had some political elements within it. And the ask from the client was for us to know where that particular candidate stood, in terms of, strength and media presence. So we needed to do a sentiment analysis, and we used one of these tools to be able to gauge not just the performance, the media performance of the person in question, but the media performance of every other candidate who is gunning for that position. So you're able to know what their positive media presence and contents were, what their negative mentions were, what the neutral mentions were, and then you are now able to gauge where they actually stand, and it actually scores them in terms of percentage. So it's real time, it's tangible for you, as opposed to how you would want to really gather stacks of newspapers, loading Punch on Guardian and Guardian on Vanguard before now. And then AI also has helped us to be able to use personalized communication, as opposed to what we used to have before now. So you will see an AI-driven tools or a solution like a HubSpot, right? HubSpot helps you to be able to create personalized email campaigns, personalized content recommendations. And how is it creating these content recommendations? The AI tool is creating these recommendations based on the user behavior, based on the audience segment that you're looking at. And then it leads to higher engagement rates, for anybody who is really using that platform. So, of course, there's been AI applications, that has helped to transform what media monitoring used to be like to now, where it's now advanced, to help you create sentiment analysis, which I like a lot and I love to do, because your sentiment analysis, again, gives you a rationale of insights and truths, of course, again, cultural realities that you can then go to your client with to say, on the basis of X, Y, Z, and on the basis of these facts and these proven figures, we recommend that you should toe this path, for your content or your communications direction. And it will make a lot of sense because that's data, that is speaking. So for media monitoring, for sentiment analysis, for personalized communication, again, there are a lot of tools. I mentioned Meltwater, I mentioned Session, I mentioned Brandwatch, we have Brand24, there is Sisomos, a lot of PR agencies are using that. And then, of course, there is HubSpot that helps us to create personalized email campaigns, personalized content that is based on the user targets that we're looking at. And that helps us to really experience higher engagement rates, when we push out those content.
Thank you very much. I agree with you. I have personally used Meltwater a couple of times, and it allows you to also see what your competition is doing without necessarily going out to stress in getting the content. Well, we know that, the times are changing and everybody has to move with the times, keep up with the times. Sometimes it is hard to be able to pinpoint and know that, okay, for me to move with this trend, these are the things I need to learn. I'm sure that a lot of people have joined this call with the expectation of how can I upskill myself in order to keep up with these trends that continue to emerge every day, because they will continue. Sorry, you said you prefer to be called Mr. Jide Johnson. Apologies. Mr. Jide Johnson, can you give us some advice on how we can equip ourselves as PR professionals, considering that we've heard AI is necessary, data-driven PR, we have to be conscious about sustainable practices and everything together. How can we, package ourselves, for lack of a better word?
The starting point of PR is research. It's an understanding. If you look at the various models that talked about PR from the perspective of the PR communication point of view, whether you look at RACE by John Mastin, which talks about research, action, communication, and evaluation, or you look at ROSI by Chris Faris, we talked about research, objective, strategy, implementation, and execution. There's the need for an average or prospective professional to understand the basic element of gathering information. And what AI tool has come to do is to make the process of gathering information, the process of doing your research, either at any of the value chain level, because there are 5 strategic areas in which we talked about in the entire PR process, which is your objective setting, which is the objective, your message strategy, your media strategy, your budget, and invariably the evaluation which you are going to use. At every of those 5 value chains, you need to have an understanding on how you gather information, you acquire intelligence. Now, what's the difference between information and intelligence? Intelligence is process information that you have collected, that you have distilled. If you recall what Dr. Nelson said the other time when he talked about the ethical implication of AI in terms of we have so much information, yet which we call digital deluge. There's too much information out there, and then seems to be less intelligence out there. So basically, any prospective professional needs to understand and needs to upskill himself with respect to how data are gathered, how data are processed, and how data are interpreted, which is critical, which calls for training. And which calls for training. The public relations profession is a profession that is highly dependent on technology, and technology keeps changes by the minute. When public relations started with Ivy Lee, it was just pure publicity using the medium of the print media, and as a profession that is highly dependent on the media, as media evolved over time, we discovered that technology shaped the media. So you must have an understanding of current technologies. You can't run away. You can't run away from it. What PR was in 1920 is not what PR is in 2024, and not what PR will be in 2026, because technology keep changing, keep improving. So we need to upskill our training in those specific areas. The third aspect which I'll talk about is for us to move from traditional public relations to what I call strategic communication perspective. The whole essence of public relations is a behavioral change communication. You want to either influence, alter, modify, manipulate opinion, beliefs, attitude, perception. The bottom line is changing people's behavior. changing people's behavior, gaining compliance to the objective of your communication strategy. So in that regards, it calls us for us to have a new dimension, a new thinking guiding this particular profession, looking at it from behavioral communication point of view, not looking at it from media relations, because in most cases, public relation is limited to either media relations or crisis management. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that contribution. If I can go over what you said again. So some of the steps we can take to prepare ourselves and stay ready is research. And of course, I'm sure that research ties back to staying in touch of the trends. So research, and more research. And of course, once you've done the research, train yourself in some of those skills that have come out as a result of your research. And the final step is...
Yeah, we need to move from the traditional approach to PR practice to look at PR from strategic communication perspective. PR is a purpose-driven communication, a purpose-driven communication that is targeted at changing behavior. If it's targeted at changing behavior, we must adopt a multidisciplinary approach to it.
Okay, thank you for that recap. I'll go back to Dr. Nelson. I know that I keep coming back to the sustainable practices. I'm hoping that you can give us some insights into ESG and how, as PR practitioners, we can be more conscious about these aspects.
Yes, it's important. When we talk about sustainability, we need to look at it from this perspective. Sustainable public relations is tied to the SDGs, that is called the Sustainable Development Goals. So when we talk about the Sustainable Development Goals, it's not just about saying, and there's one particular aspect of the Sustainable Development Goal that has to talk about institutions. That is, how well can an organization be a sustainable institution? And that's where PR is anchored in. And in carrying out that sustainability, there are a lot of things that one needs to really pay attention to. Like we already mentioned we've talked about your publics. Your publics are very, very critical. Who are your publics? And we already mentioned them. And decide, looking at it from a relationship perspective, we need to understand that one of the perspective of public relation is relationship management. That has to do with community relation, media relation, investor relation, customer relation. But that's not all about public relations. Public relations progress beyond that. We talk about image management. We talk about identity management. We talk about reputational management. And when we get to that level, that perspective of reputational management, we need to be very concerned with issues of sustainability. And when we talk about environmental governance, it's very, very important. How well can we engage in practices that would promote environmental governance? And there are 3 P's that we must pay attention to. That is profit, people, and planet. And in carrying out these, we need to pay attention to these 3 P's. How are we generating our profit? And in generating our profit, how well are we, using that profit in not only for the organization, but for the community? So you generating profit is not only for your organization, not only for the owner. It also goes beyond just the owner to the employees, then also to the environment. So generating that profit is very, very critical. So then the next point is the people. How well is your services such that it does not harm the people, especially harm the people in when it talks about their climate, their environment, and lastly, the planet, which is actually the environment itself. So at these 3 levels, promoting sustainability must pay attention to these 3 P's: the people, the profit, the planet. And paying attention to the planet, we have a number of issues, talking about green climate, talk about issues that have to do with climate change, and we talk about biodiversity. And these are things that we need to pay attention to. We find that some organizations have progressed beyond using electricity to start using solar as a way to promote this environmental governance. So these are things that organizations need to pay attention to, especially with sustainability. I don't want us to forget the point I've mentioned, that one of the SDG goals has to do with institution. And it's not just about becoming a strong institution, but becoming a sustainable institution. And this sustainable institution must pay attention to other aspects of the issues that affect the organization, whether within the community, whether as it in the nation, or whether it's across the globe. So it needs to pay attention to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Femi, I would like to write off what Dr. Nelson has just said, speaking about sustainability and being able to actually practice it. What would you say, or what would you consider as the possible gaps that might lead to practitioners not being able to take part in contributing their own quota to the SDG goals?
So I think that we have spoken a lot about what PR used to be and the role that technology, AI, and innovation is playing in driving an improved ecosystem. Again, it's a huge market. I tell you for a fact, the market for AI technology is vast. As at the last check in 2023, Statista reported that there was around about $200 billion made in the AI market. And it says that that growth is going to increase to about $1.8 trillion by 2030. Now, what that means is that it is not an industry where somebody sits down and say they want to fold their arms and think about whether or not they want to leverage AI to drive growth for their PR practice. No, it is compulsory that you have to evolve using AI and you have to evolve alongside it. And we have said what AI is doing to transform the ecosystem, again, digital transformation, integrated communication. And I love the fact about sustainability, and CSR. Every stakeholder that expect transparency should understand that they need to take their corporate responsibility serious, right? A brand is not a brand if they are not held accountable for the social and environmental impacts that they make, right? So you can make a lot of millions year in, year out, and every time you come around and talk about what your FY, profit, and all of the things that you made after tax, amount to, if you are not accountable for your social and environmental impacts, then you cannot be called a sustainable brand. So brands then need to think about it. I think one of the things that have held a couple of, brands back is the fear of not really knowing exactly how much they should invest when it comes to CSR. And that's also, what data can help you achieve. Because we have mentioned that before you even go to the CSR and the sustainability practices that you should be putting back into the ecosystem, data should be what will be informing you of what exactly that environment needs, right? So you need to use data, to use analytics to, first of all, create those insights, that tells you essentially what the needs, of your immediate environment where you're operating and where you're carrying your business out, needs and it requires. And then you must, focus on how you're able to, give back to the society, create social and environmental impact. I think that if we put out that fear, behind us, again, try to leverage the fact that PR, again, isn't just about reputation. It is also about impact. So when we talk about storytelling, we're not just saying storytelling because we want that client to have that fancy reputation, across, the press and the media. No, we're saying that in addition to that fantastic and solid reputation that you're building for that brand, how much impact are you also creating within the ecosystem? Which again leads us to, crisis management.
Going by what Dr. Nelson said, I think he mentioned three things. He said profits, people, and planet. Yes, right now, it feels like I wouldn't ascribe it to, the general audience, but there is cancel culture that is also encouraged by digitization. So any little thing, you're not doing your part to contributing to the society, or you are portrayed as a brand that is rather depleting it. Cancel culture becomes your friend very soon. So I strongly believe that brands need to consciously put effort into not just working on their perception or relaying and communicating what they do to consumers, but also being conscious about adding back to the planet and not just subtracting. Thank you to everyone that has been on the call so far. It has been quite insightful, and I do hope that what we've taken out from today, we can, put it into our developing our strategies and implementing it in our PR campaigns to ensure ROI for clients. I have one question here, which I think you might have touched on already, Mr. Femi, but let me ask it all the same. It says, how can we weave this sustainable PR into PR strategies and all for clients and convince the clients of its ROI? Let me take that again. How can we weave this sustainable PR into PR strategies and all for clients and campaigns and convince the clients of its ROI? I suspect this person is asking this question because it is a challenge these days to actually convince clients that, yes, you need to do your part in contributing to the society. I'll allow Mr. Jide Johnson to answer that question.
Well, it's clear every PR program is driven by an objective, and the objective is characterized by what the organization wants to achieve, either in the marketplace or in the public sphere, depending on whichever organization you are working for. So it's your PR market driven, it's your PR profit driven, it's your PR value driven, it's your PR crisis driven, it's your PR media driven, or it's your PR technological driven. So essentially, what the organizations wants to achieve and the space in which that organization or institution operates will determine the approach which you adopt concerning its PR program. Because the return on investment for a commercial organization is different from the return on investment for a non-commercial organization or a not-for-profit organization. So everything is driven by. So in building your campaign, in building your program, you must have an understanding of the organization which you are pitching to, which you are working for, and that is encapsulated in their mission and in their vision statement and their value statement. So that invariably will determine whatever approach you are going to adopt concerning whether you bring in this environmental sustainability or all of these other issues related to the environment, related to gender, related to equity, inclusion, and whatever. So that's just my take. It's a purpose-driven communication. Your campaign is based on a purpose, and what's the purpose of that campaign will determine what you present to the management, which will get the buy-in of the management. What you present, for example, to Lagos State government might not be acceptable to Ogun State government or Rivers State government, or what you present to MTN might not be acceptable to Airtel. So understanding the organization which you work for, the space in which you work in, and their own corporate identity within the larger scope of the environment, which the purpose, the planet, and the profit, which Professor Nelson spoke about at that time, which should be the guiding principle.
Okay, thank you for that response. I hope that answers the question. At this point, I'm going to invite the LSPR representative to tell us about the courses that they have on offer. They're currently running a discount, I think 20% on some PR courses. So I will invite her to speak about that for approximately 3 minutes. During that time, if you have any questions, please can you drop them in the chat box and we will compile everything and try to attend to all of them. Thank you.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So my name is Adetutu. I am the program coordinator at LSPR NG. We are a partner of this event. So LSPR is basically London School of Public Relations, Nigeria. We have our head office in London, and we believe in bringing this world-class education of PR to Nigerian professionals and people who want to start their career in PR. We have courses to equip the professionals with skills that they need to upskill and excel in the world of PR. We believe in providing world-class education, like I said, and we offer CPD certification courses that is accepted worldwide. So whether you are a professional or, you're just starting in the world of PR, or you are interested in PR and you don't know how to go about it, LSPR is a great opportunity for you to learn and to also have a step-by-step guide on how to go about it and how to excel. So if you're on this call today, we are currently running a discount on some of our courses. We have the branding and reputation management course, fundamentals of risks and crisis management, PR strategies and campaign, fundamentals of public relations, analytical tools for professionals, utilizing artificial intelligence in PR and communications. The first 10 people to register for our course would get up to 20% discount. So for more information, you can visit www.lspr.ng or you can call us. We can share the details of how you can reach us after this session, but you can visit our website and also check us out on social media in the meantime. On social media, we are at lspr.ng. On our bio on social media, you will see a link to register. But for any other information, we would display a number on the screen pretty soon. And yeah, we will be waiting for you. 20% up for grabs. Thank you very much.
Okay, appears we don't have any more questions, so I will just highlight the key takeouts from today's session. And I'm looking forward to seeing the good work that we're all going to do and put out. I'm also looking forward to seeing how we upskill and prepare for the changes to come. So one thing that is clear is that the world is going to continue evolving as it has been evolving. And as such, we need to be prepared. Some of the things that we will need to take note of are to always carry out research and stay on top of the trends, stay aware of the trends within the PR space, so you are not caught sleeping or left behind. That's one. AI is not a matter of choice. Apparently, it's a must. Yeah, so that sounds like a strong warning to say, you know what, you're going to be left behind if you don't keep up with the trends. Data-driven PR is the norm. AI is the future. So be sure that you move along with the times and stay in touch with these skills that you need to get ready. Another key takeout is the fact that for sustainable PR practice, we have to pay attention to, the data-driven actions and also be conscious about how we carry out our influencer relations and digitized publications.
Yeah, a quick one. I was actually trying to see, I just realized the app we're using is not your typical app. So I wanted to ask a question to all three speakers because I find this illuminating. If you will allow me to just ask that.
Please.
So Amumu Koro, I love this conversation that has been had here. I like the fact that there are tools, AI tools, whether we like it or not. Let us also understand that this is also a strong drive in that space to make it a reality and change and alter the way we operate too. But here's a quick one I want to ask. We understand that AI and the tools that are currently in use also taps into the data they derive from within the internet spaces. So even though we use these tools to get data, and we're saying that we need the monitoring tools, we need the sensitivity tools, we need the other various tools used for various purposes. My question is, how do you also smartly, critically critique and question? Because you talked about deepfakes, but we've all seen where I love the response. I think Mr. Femi said earlier on also when he talked about the importance of data PR. Because that means you're going for facts. You're going to drive with data, and your data has to be reliable. In a world where it's so easy in this digital era to really not even manage your crisis anymore, because I think the conversation should be about prevention of crisis as much as we can. So how are we sure that even the data that are out there, because even in more recent times, I am beginning to question data from the World Health Organization, from UNICEF, and all these top so-called reputable sources of information. So what I'm saying is that are our data not often skewed based on the algorithms from which the various AI tools draw their data from? One. Two, how do we, for managing perception for managing the objectives we want for our company when we use data to ensure that we don't fall prey to some of these wrong data that could be out there and could mislead in the era of course, misinformation and disinformation. And then 3, how do we also mitigate the I love what Dr. JJ says, even though he prefers to be called Mr. JJ said earlier on, he did say that whether we like it or not, PR has moved from just being crisis management and reputation. It's all encompassing. So how do we wrap all of these key parts with the real 2 questions I asked? So I'll leave the floor for all the speakers to respond as each one chooses any particular perspective to answer.
Okay, thank you very much for that question, or for those questions. You asked 2 questions or 3. I just want to be sure. I heard the first one being, this is a summary. Would you say that the data is skewed because of the available sources, right? That's the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And the second one, you said, how do we mitigate the effects of these skewed results? Or what was that question?
Skewed data that we have, because they would definitely affect what we turn out as PR. Okay. Especially in the data-driven PR that we're talking about.
Okay, thank you for that. Let me call on Dr. Nelson to answer first. And after that, we can get a response from Mr. Jide Johnson and then Mr. Femi.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for the question. I need to correct an impression first. When we talk about data-driven PR, we need to understand that data-driven PR is not only about secondary data. It also has the ability to obtain primary data. We need to understand the difference between primary data and secondary data. Primary data is the data that doesn't exist, but you generate the data yourself. Then secondary data is the one that already exists, that is in public domains, and which you can now generate. So I think your question actually is more focused on the secondary data. Data is already available. WHO already has this data, and these other people, UNICEF already has this data, and you are finding, okay, this data may be skewed, this data might be misleading. We need to understand that with the use of AI and other tools, because we've been talking about AI, but AI is not the only tool that you can use. There are a lot of emerging technology. You can use big data. And when you are engaging in data-driven public relations, you can generate primary data. You can generate primary data. For example, you're talking about using a survey. You can talk about end survey and baseline survey. And when you're generating this survey, you can generate this survey with a large number of people because you have that data sets. And when you have that data set with the use of softwares and applications, you can actually now identify trends and patterns. So we need to understand from that particular perspective that it's not only about, you can generate data from secondary data, which is very good. You can also generate primary data, get insights from your consumers. You want to find out what did they eat, when did they eat, where did they eat, how did they eat, how did they buy. You want to get that information. And that information may even be there in the public domain. It may even be there already on the internet, but you want to generate that data. Because that data might have an existing timeline, but you want to get their current behavior, their current attitude, and you can generate that data. And with the use of these tools that have already been mentioned, you can actually generate insights, consumer insights. You can even generate insight from your competitors, what your competitors are doing. You can get all that information through the use of primary data. That is what we talk about data-driven PR. Data-driven PR is in these 2 forms. Primary data in the method of data collection. I'll allow other speakers to speak. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Nelson. Let me just add that if you are able to control your data from the start, I don't think that there would be an issue of mitigating effects of a skewed data. Like he has said, you can actually source for your data yourself. There are companies let me just use Nigeria, for example. There are companies that actually carry out research for you as a brand to either understand your target audience. Basically, you can give them, or you would have the kind of data you are looking to gather and be able to mine insights from that data together with whoever is carrying out the research. And that way, at least that's one way of mitigating skewed data. Mr. Johnson, if you can also add to that, it will be much appreciated.
Technology is good. Automation is good. It's great. but the human element cannot be taken away. The human element is greater. Public relation belongs to the creative industry. Public relation belongs to the applied social, psychological, behavioral school of thought. You deal with human beings. Human beings, as much as we use this technology, we must understand that the human element is critical. And then when we talk about creativity, creativity has to do with the human element. So, like has been pointed out, it is, you have the raw data, but what sense you make out of the data is what is called intelligence. What sense are you making out of that data? What interpretation? And you give the same data set to two different individuals, they make different interpretation from that data set. Whatever interpretation they make from that data set is the intelligence they have gathered, and which will determine the outcome of whatever use they put that data to. We've spoken about this digital world. I want to quickly just add this, and what Quick said in his book Limitless, that one of the 4 demons we must actually avoid in this particular era, which he calls the 4 demons of the digital world. One is digital deluge. Now we have unending flow of information and data, that we have so many data at the tip of our finger that we don't even know which one to use. The second one is digital distraction, which talks about we have a lot of email, news, alerts, social media notification. You have digital footprints everywhere you go. The third one is that we are trying to replace the human memory with supercomputers, which talked about digital dementia. And the last one is digital deduction, which talks about we have lost critical thinking, and we have subsumed critical thinking we have surrendered it to technology. The most important thing is for you to understand that in whatever you do, whatever technology you deploy, there is still this human element. For example, if three PR agencies or consultancy firms gather the same data, use the same AI technology, what will bring about a difference in whatever presentation they are making, if they are pitching for an account, is the human element, is the creative element that comes from the human element that constitutes the organization. So it's important for us to understand that you can have the data, but what sense are you making out of the data is critical. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that insightful answer. I don't know if Mr. Femi has anything to add.
Well, I think I agree 100% with the views of the other 2 panelists. I think that it makes sense for us to also establish on this call the types of strategy that anybody who wants to incorporate data into their PR practice should follow. And I think for me, it has to be first off to set clear objectives. So you then need to define what you want to achieve with a particular campaign, and whether you need data for that campaign and what type of data you need. That is the first step before you now start to, go through your data collection efforts. And then you need to choose the right tools, right? So what data analytics tools are you leveraging, for your campaign? Is it Google Analytics? Is it media monitoring platforms like Sprout Social? That really helps you, which I think for me is the second stage. Then at the point where you have realized what the right tool for your campaign is, then you go ahead and collect relevant data. And I think that has really been spoken about, that the types of data that we have varies. There is the primary data that you can get for yourself firsthand. There's the secondary data that you have across board, already established. Then you are able to identify key data points that align with that objectives that you have set, including what the sentiment analysis and engagement metrics that you are going to use to measure the performance will look like. And then after you have done this, you then analyze. Like Professor has said, you analyze and you interpret. Now, when you're analyzing, what you're looking for is the trends and the insights in that data to now understand what works best for your campaign. So it is not everything that is in the data that you have gathered that will be useful for your campaign. It is not everything that works best, for your clients. And then when you're sieving, at the sieving process, that's when you now refine your strategy. You make data-driven adjustments to your messaging. So at that point, you now know that because you have been reliably informed and what you're putting together is from data, driven insights and truths, then you are now able to present your messaging better to your audience, based on, the data that you have gathered. And then, of course, very importantly is to always measure the success of your campaign using established KPIs. We always say this, to use established KPIs to measure the success of your campaign. And that allows you to always create, optimization as the need be, for your brand and for your campaign. And I tell you for a fact, on a call like this, we've really spoken about a lot around what, technology, innovation, and AI is doing for PR. I think that if PR practitioners and brands do not leverage the positive power, of AI and data analytics, again, there's trouble, right? I remember one case study, and I know that, we haven't really spoken about any case study on this call today. So I know a lot of us know a brand called Erisco. So I think that for me, I'm not even talking about whether they had a good PR strategy or they did not. I'm saying that at the point where the customer put out something on social media, there's already a lot of data out there, sentiment analysis of what customers are saying. Don't forget that it's not just customers that you have on social media. There are third-party advocates, there are food experts also across board, and there are brand experts that are also lending their voice. So we're saying the use of data. As much as you want to gather your primary data, there's the secondary data, there's the real-time data that you have when something like this occurs on your platform across both paid, both owned, both shared, media across board. So leverage all of those data, but never forget to skew all of them with the right process and the right strategy. Set your clear objective, choose the right tools, then collect your relevant data, analyze and interpret your data, and then go back and refine based on the data and insights and truths that you now already gather. And then always never forget to measure your success using established KPIs. I think that will be it for me.
Thank you, and thank you very much. Umokuru, I hope I got that correct. I hope that we have answered the questions you asked. If you still have any other questions, you can send us a message or reach out to us on our social media platforms. I see you're unmuted. Do you want to say something?
No, that was a brilliant response from all three. I want just to say thank you to them personally.
I would like to say thank you to everyone again for joining. This was quite a session. Unfortunately, we wouldn't be able to, we had plans to review some case studies, but it was looking like the time will not contain what we had to do. So we had to improvise and pretty much just move with the flow. Again, thank you, Dr. Nelson. Thank you, Mr. Olufemi Isaac. And thank you, Mr. Jide Johnson, for joining us today. Thank you for all your contributions. I want to say thank you to the organizers as well, Teksightedge, ATR, Lagos School of Public Relations, LSPR. By the way, just a reminder, LSPR is running 20% discounts. You can find them on social media, websites. Their information is in the chat box. Thank you to everyone for joining, and happy PR Day once again. Do enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to catch up on all the live shows right here on africatechradio.com.